All right, everything should work fine now. Should. I go see if I can delete the old video. Ran for 8 minutes and 9 seconds and nothing happened. Anyways, I'll just go through the spiel that I said already. So I was here on time. It is simply that I went on a whole thing. I got it and said, "Hey, YouTube, let me finally change." Like right when I loaded up the stream, if I did it from my webcam or my microphone or the built-in stuff or what have you. And apparently, no, YouTube did not. So here we are. Anyways, welcome everybody. I'll just go over some of the things that I said before. Marshall Arachnids was kind enough to go over a bunch of questions that they had for specifically for our two Gamprs. And this stream I will likely forward to other people who are interested in puppies, because if everything goes well, we will be having puppies this spring. So so here we are. There is I have to start the stream, just get this out of my system by saying that there is a ton of information on the Gampr.org, Armenian Gampr Club of America. Everybody who gets dogs from us will be pedigreed and registered. I guess it is a pedigree, but it's, you will have paperwork through the Gampr Club of America. There is a ton of information there, a bunch of information that I don't necessarily need to go over because it's there. It would be a good idea to read the whole site and then continue onwards from there. But let's assume that everybody here has already done that. Anybody who wants to get a Gampr from Viktor and Nazig's litter has already done that. And so here we are to learn more about the two dogs and then more of my personal experience with the dogs. So I asked the Gampr, what was the name of one of your goats? That's funny. Let's go through with Marshall Arachnid's specific questions. Again, I'm going to assume that most people are familiar with Gamprs or similar Central Asian type breeds. So let's go off the lovely list that Marshall Arachnids has sent. So the first question was, how does Nazig's temperament differ from Viktor's? So Marshall Arachnids met Viktor, and despite him being on his worst behavior, like there is very little more that he could do to have been on his worst behavior. Marshall Arachnids for some reason saw that and said, I want a dog like this. And good for you for seeing past that. He now is a completely different dog. He does not jump. Like, he will sometimes, when we have people over, if he's really excited to see somebody he knows that it's been a while since he's seen them, he will do a little pop up, but he does not jump. He does not do the whining to get people's attention. Very, 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 very rarely. And usually it will be redirected to going over to Nazig or going outside to do something. Just all around, just matured, so different from how he used to be. So Nazig is, when I asked the club, I asked for, I thought that was just who Viktor was. I thought this is just the dog that I have, and there's nothing, I knew that if he got working, if he had a little bit more companionship, more exercise, whatever, that he would be different. I didn't realize how drastic it would be and how sudden it would be from getting another dog in his life. So when I asked the club, I said I wanted the most confident, on top of things, unbothered, relaxed dog that you can give me, and that's what they did. But be careful what you wish for, because it might come true. Really quick, I want to say that I'm saying all this stuff, but at the end of this stream, time willing, I will probably, in my phone, if my phone is charged, We will do a second stream where we go outside with the dogs and interact with them a bit and all that stuff. That's, you know, that's more direct. They're outside right now. There is a single rat that, with the bad weather, has taken up residence near the chicken coop, obviously to eat some of the scraps that are in the run. And the dogs are very persistent at hunting it. Something they're very good at is keeping pests away. So anyway, so Nazig is the opposite dog of Viktor. She is confident. She is aloof. She likes people. She loves Angela. She is not as affectionate as Viktor is. And Angela doesn't like when I say that because Angela's her favorite person, so she's most like that with her. But in general, Viktor is very, you know, the frequency of coming up to you and sitting near you and staring at you like in a sort of intimate way and wanting to like flop over into you and just be touching you is Viktor is all of that, and it could be a sex thing too, as in like could be a male dog thing, intact male dog thing. Nazig, she loves pets. She will love to come up and be near you, and this is not saying she's not a sweet dog at all. She's a very sweet dog, but it's not the same way that Viktor shows his sort of affection. And again, Angela gets upset when I say that because Nazig's her favorite thing, but it's not a bad thing. Like, I still love both of them. You can lay under with the scratches and she'll still look at you with her soft eyes and all this stuff. She's just not quite as it could be. Could be an attachment thing. Could be any of those things. It could come with her being more aloof and a bit more independent in that sense. So just an example, the day that she was delivered here, um, Viktor's first day. Let's start with that. Viktor's first day here, I brought him in the house, and he was fine. He wasn't cowering anything. But he's cautious of everything, looking around, and the feel of the ground was different, so he was a bit uncertain of that. I gave him a bath because he had lived out in a barn his whole life. I mean, he socialized and all this stuff, but still, he was a outdoor animal. He was going to be more indoors until we got acquainted with each other. So I gave him a bath, and that bath made him afraid to go in the bathroom, or just not afraid, but just not want to go in the bathroom for the rest of his life. And the only time, I think one time he did come into the bathroom a couple of times, mostly when he was like, he really wanted to be near me or near Angela or near somebody. Then he comes in the bathroom like, what are you doing in here? You never go in here. Viktor was, when he came home, let's see, he was born in late May, so May to June, June to July, July to August. So he was about 10, 11 weeks old. And Nazig she was born in late March. She arrived here on May 21st. Technically May 22nd because it was 2 in the morning. So 2 months, about 8 weeks. Anyway, so that's Viktor on his first day, but we didn't have any issues, separation or anything like that. He didn't cry or anything like that. Nazig, we brought her home. The first thing she did was she just was all over Angela. Just like in a split second, I knew that Angela was her favorite person, and that's just how it was always going to be, just immediately. So then let's see, what does she do? She's walking all over the place. She's going down the hallway. She's going in the room. She's coming out of the room. She's going in the living room. We take her in the bathroom. We give her a bath. She gets a little irritated by the bath. We dry her off. Completely unaffected, unfazed, just happy, and anything goes, and she's fine, and she's all over the place. So that's affectionate. Confidence. She is extremely confident. Viktor is, again, we haven't gotten to some of the other stuff that's on the martial arachnids list of stuff about the dogs, but Viktor is very uncertain of, not necessarily of new things. He's kind of, there's two sides to him. There's this like kind of like, what's going on here? I'm a little put off. I'm anxious. You know, tail tucked down, scoot out of the way when there's a weird sound sometimes or whatever. And then there's the flip side of it where it's like a branch just fell, it was loud. I'm on top of it, and that's where he is. So Nazig is just kind of that, anything in between those two things, she's just kind of good to go with constantly. It's just nothing phases her. The only times I've seen her fear anything was sound related. To her first 4th of July, and where were we on the other 4th of July? We were here. It was better this year when she was older, but so this dog, nothing scares her, nothing puts her off. Even Viktor, Viktor getting scary or something with her just completely doesn't care. But the fireworks, she jumped over this little fence thing, and I was about to reprimand her for going into an area, and then I saw that she was shivering and she was afraid of the fireworks, and I was like, okay, suddenly this is a different situation. Pick her up, bring her in the garage, calm her down, etc. Meanwhile, Viktor is outside just ready to leap into the sky and grab the fireworks by the throat, just the barking and the everything. Now, on the other side of that, let's say I go to change the mats in the kitchen, and I clean the kitchen, and I use the Mr. Clean or whatever, and I vacuum the mats and whatever, and I move the mats out of the way, and it's changed. Viktor will look in the kitchen and be like, I don't think I want to go in here. I don't think something's right. And he will scoot out of the doorway, and Nazig will just plow right in and just say, hey, Mama's here. I got to go see Mama. So they're on different wavelengths sometimes. And Viktor is way less neurotic since Nazig's been around. Just getting the extra energy out, playing with her, being with her all the time, just completely takes care of that. So that there's the difference between the two of them. Also listening. Viktor, if it's both of the dogs have a habituation to the day-to-day life around here. So there's, going out in the yard, and my schedule, I'm in the house, I'm out of the house, Angela's here, Angela's not here, stuff's going on. There's just a pace that both of them are they're both really used to. And if you mix that up a bit, Nazig again is more just kind of go with the flow, etc. And Viktor can be kind of thrown out of whack for a bit. Like if I go on vacation for an extended period of time, or if they're not allowed to go outside for whatever reason for some period of time, etc., etc. Where was I going to go with this? Was I leading this into another point here? So hello, Xywillis. Hello again. Welcome to everybody who's joining the stream. So Nazig is kind of more go with the flow. Anything's sort of fine. She's adaptable, and she will kind of has a general vibe of listening. She's very responsive. Hey, come here, etc. Viktor, the neuroticism gets in the way of that sometimes. It's not that bad, and when push comes to shove, he does listen. Let me give. Let me think of a good example. Again, it's like, but there's a degree where the dogs, they want to do what they want to do unless you teach them in that situation that you call the shots in that situation. Like when I go outside, in the past, I go outside and the dogs Viktor's barking at something. I call to him, he doesn't want to come in, call them again, etc. You got to go out and teach the dog that when you say come here, it means come here. And if they do not come here, you go and you get the dog and you bring it where you want it to be. There's no meanness. You don't ever, no physical harm or anything to the dog, but you teach them when you ask this one thing of them, this thing you ask maybe less than 5 times a day, sometimes if it's not a busy day, whatever. You've asked something of them, and you feed them, you love them, you give them warmth, you watch out for their general well-being, they love you, etc. And their part of the bargain is they need to listen. You need to teach them there is a consequence for ignoring you. Um, and so you go and you get the dog and you bring the dog where you want to go. Simple. And eventually they learn, oh, I can't just blow off this person. You know, oh, I love them and I'll come to get a treat, but not when there's something in the yard and I want to bark at it, or not when I'm in the middle of digging a hole, or et cetera, et cetera. So for both of Victor Nazig is more likely to just come generally. So if I call them, and if I want them both to come nowadays, I mostly call Nazig, and she'll come, and then Victor will be like, "Oh, something's going on," so then he'll follow her. But he'll come too when called. But he can be, if he's on a barking spree about something, and you know they're meant to do that. They're meant to alert you to dangers and protect the yard and all this other stuff. But if you want them to come to you, you know they need to come to you, and he was not always a good listener with that. And then we do the treats, and we do the high quality stuff, etc. But let me give you an example here of the extreme end for both of them. Again, so Nazig, even if she's distracted by something, there's a very good chance that she will come and call. But 2 or 3 nights ago, there's a screech owl that's been sitting in a tree in the yard, just a little tiny screech owl, not causing any problems, etc. And the first night, both of the dogs were on it, and they were, letting me know about it. And Nazig was ready to. Victor does not plow through fences. Victor will find the crack and slip through it. Nazig is, I'm getting from point A to point B, and she will try to plow through fencing. And she plowed through the fencing to the poultry run to try and get the screech owl that was in the tree that was kind of adjacent to the poultry run. So that was the whole thing. But anyways, so the first night I went out there and I was like, okay, I can't remember what time it was. It's like, okay, guys, we're going to go inside. So I went out there. I just told them, okay, come on. And they both come with me. They got their barking out. They saw the thing. It had been, I don't know, 5-10 minutes of them barking and paying attention to it. At some point, they must have realized this isn't something we want to bother with. We don't have to bother with it right now. Whatever. Dad's here. We're going to go with Dad. The next night, Nazig went outside, and the screech owl was back, and I just let her out that night because she was the only one complaining to go out. And I tried calling her and all this other stuff. I'm like, Nazig, come here. And this was a solo mission, and she was going to get to that thing or get to the base of that tree. Keep in mind, the screech owl is 20 feet up the tree. There's no way she's getting that thing. And she's just on it, and she's just go. It's 2:30 in the morning. I have to sleep. I still have neighbors here, etc. So I had to go outside, grab her, and pull her to get her to come inside, which is something that I almost never, ever have to do. 99% of the time, she listens and she will just come. No matter what. She's playing, anything else is going on. But this night, the mood that she was in was just, I'm on this, I'm in charge, etc. And I was like, no, you don't get to be that. I appreciate you pointing out a threat, etc. But I'm saying it's not a threat. We're just going to let it go. Somebody, JP, says something about Gampr protecting you against pit bulls. A Gampr can protect you. A single Gampr can protect you against almost any dog, and probably the smallest of the big cats. And with with 3 Gamprs, you will be reliably safe from some of the largest terrestrial predators on this planet, just based on the fact that with 3 of them, they can antagonize and nip at and pull away and lead off and survive a short attack from every terrestrial predator. So, anyway, so that's that question. Anyways, getting back to the temperament of the animals. so that was the case the other night with Nazig. Now a case on the extreme end with Viktor, and this is also why there's something that, you know, this is not a like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go into this and there's all this stuff about, you know, dogs dominance. It's not true. It is true. Breed the alpha. All this stuff. It's not about that, and using that terminology makes people get really upset on both sides of this dog debate thing. The point is, dogs to other dogs and to humans, there's a level of, you could call it respect or decency. You could call it just decency, right? Your dogs have to be decent to each other and to you. And people, again, they say breed the alpha, be all this stuff, and they say wolf packs, and everybody's like, oh, those studies were outdated, and other people are like, oh, but it's in this way in the wild. The way that social canids form their relationships is is basically a nuclear family or a family unit. The alpha, you know, oh, they fought their way to the top. It's none of that. It is the mom and the dad of the pack, of the group, whatever. And that's why they call the shots, and the other dogs respect them. It's not, none of this like fighting. I'm sure there's fighting. There's fighting in human families, all this stuff. But that's the mom and dad. The puppies, the pups grow up learning that these two individuals from the get-go are bigger than they are, stronger than them, but they give them food, they give them love, they're nice, etc. They have a relationship with them that's based on this as they grow up. And that's why this hierarchy forms. This is, you know, it's not a hierarchy, it's just a family, right? You know, mom and dad call the shots, and if you're a toddler and you go giggling and running towards the street, your mom is not going to look at you and say, oh dear, can you come back here, please? Could you please come back here? Would it be so kind of you to come back to me? One of your parents is going to run at you and grab you and pull you away from the street and says, don't you do that. They will tell you, don't you do that. And it's not because they hate you or they love you or they don't love you or they want to be dominant or something over you. They are trying to protect you and teach you. And we naturally have these responses to scary situations like that because that's what we learn from each other. We learn, oh, don't run to this street thing. Don't disobey my mom until you get old enough, and then you start thinking. So that's how I feel looking at raising dogs should be. Is you're not the alpha. You're not the whatever this crap that people teach. You are a parent, and you love them, and most of the time it's kisses and sunshine and rainbows and scratches and good food and treats and play and all this stuff. But there is a period of time where you have to ingrain this knowledge into them, and you can't do it with kisses and hugs and loves and all this other stuff. Like, there are times where you have to teach them something that would be horrific for them to learn on their own or fatal for them to learn on their own. So recall is one of those things. And here's my evidence for against this positive training whatever stuff that people preach. So the first time we took Viktor out to Holly, to the new property, I said, okay, Angela, he's different than Nazig. We're gonna have a hard time with recall, but I got a solution. We're gonna see the solution. I didn't feed him the whole day before, so he was hungry by the time we went out there. I brought a bag of slow cooked sirloin that was soaked in bacon grease. One of the most delicious, savory, incredible food items for a dog, for a human, for anything. This delicious thing, and now throw into the equation no food up until the point we brought him out to Holly. So we take him out to the back pasture. He's on the leash. I take off the leash. The grass, the vegetation is about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 feet tall. It was May. And we let him off, and he's having the time of his life, and he's running, and he's sniffing, and he's doing all this stuff. And I was like, okay, let's practice some recall. Angela, help me with this. So we're sitting there and I'm like, Victor, come here. And he comes to me a little bit, but he's nose to the ground. He's kind of all over the place. And it's like, okay, he came. That's good. In the backyard, if I call him, he'll look at me for a second and he'll come running straight to me. So this was not like that. And then Angela tried calling him a little bit, and the brain is already going somewhere else. And at some point, and he came to both of us once or twice. It took a while, and he ate the food that we gave him, so he knew that we had this stuff. The smell is in the air, it's intoxicating, etc. It's a dog. It can smell everything. It can smell every single object you've touched that day just from sniffing your hand a couple of times. Anyways, so so he's off leash, etc. And all of a sudden, he catches something he wants to go after. Not a visual, a scent, and he's off. And he's into the neighbor's property. And I'm like, oh no. And I run through the brush line into the neighbor's. There's another big pasture next to there, wide open pasture again with the grass about 2.5, 3 feet tall. And I'm running and I'm calling him and I'm calling him and I'm calling him. And I catch on just the briefest glimmer of him going over a little hill. And I run to the top of another hill to look over, and he's gone. Just gone. No sign. There are few to no animals on this planet that could keep up with that dog at the pace that he was going. He wasn't even running. It was just the canid trot, just a wolfy trot, just off and gone. And I went back to the barn and we called Holly. We said we have to report a missing dog, all this other stuff. And Angela and her brother, and Angela's like, oh no, this is Angela's thinking I'm going to be freaking out because the dog is gone. And I just sort of told myself, well, a couple of things could happen. Somebody's going to see him and think he's a wolf or something, and they're going to shoot him. And that's going to happen. He's going to get hit by a car. That's going to happen. Somebody's going to find him, and that's going to be great, and they'll call us, and we'll go pick him up, etc. And that could happen. Or he's going to find his way back here at some point because I'm here, you're here, we're his favorite people. He'll come back eventually. So I went out, I kept working on the barn. I'm trying to stop myself from freaking out. I just tell myself there's nothing you can do. There is absolutely nothing you can do. And maybe about 20, 25 minutes later, he comes just trotting into the front yard, tongue hanging out the side of his mouth, just ready to hang out. And I just like, okay, there we go. That's just how this went. And for the rest of the day, we did not trust him as much as Nazig in terms of leaving him out. But there was a period of time where I was working on the barn, and anytime he'd start, I think I'm going to go look over there, wander off, say, Victor, come here. Comes on back, I give him one of the pieces of food, etc. So there is something in his brain that there's no amount of treats or anything could have. There is just an instinct to follow whatever he smelled, to just go. And he came back, and again, but stopping him from taking off, whatever made him go off he'd have to habituate to it. It's not like, oh, this new smell I've never smelled before. It would get old eventually, and being out there, all this new stuff, suddenly these new smells, sights, sensations, running distance, etc. Suddenly that becomes passé, and suddenly the more day-to-day need of I need love from dad, I need food, etc. would overwhelm that. And so, but it takes work. Again, the key word I've been telling myself, and the thing I'd like to get across, is context. The dogs learn context very well. They habituate to a context, and then it's very easy to do all kinds of things. Again, in the backyard, recall all day, all night, 99.9% recall, because everything, the context is this is the backyard. I know the backyard. I know the smells in the backyard. But then you add something new. Here's a screech owl sitting in a tree in the backyard. It's new. Suddenly the dog's brains are focused on that and not on dad calling them, etc. What I would argue is eventually the more you work with the dogs, the more stuff they're exposed to, etc., the easier it will get to do the recall in all contexts, because suddenly it's not just, oh, I go to my dad when I'm in the house. Okay, now it's, well, I go to my dad when I'm in the yard. Then it's, oh, I go to my dad when I'm in this huge fenced in area. And then it's, oh, I come back to my dad whenever. Basically whenever. There's almost nothing that could get the dogs to not come back to you. So I don't think, it could be adolescent male stuff, but this was last spring, so he was 3. And the other thing is, yeah, male dogs wandering, etc. Nazig, when we're out there, she sticks around. We don't have any issues. She's there, and when we have people over and whatnot, she sticks around too. And what I was told is in Armenia, usually they run a group of about 8 dogs, 7 males and 1 female. And I asked, is the female to keep the boys around? And she said, yeah. So there might be a male thing, but I really do think that the dogs acclimate to a home. They come back to a home for food, they stay there for their work, etc. But novelty, new things that are different from what they're habituated to, it's a wild card, and it needs work to figure out what you're going to do in those situations. So again, now this October we had Nazig out at Holly, and from when she was younger, from the previous year, we would just let her, roam when we're out there, and she'd come back with recall, etc. But then this October, the neighbor across the street who has 3 German Shepherds, one of which never got on good terms with Nazig. They never became friends because he was just snappy and yappy the whole time. We took her over there. That's another thing, hold back. We took Nazig over there last winter, and she got to meet the neighbors. 3 at the time was 2 German Shepherds. And the male was just, the quick German Shepherd bark and the neurotic and stay back and not sure. And the female was kind of like that first too. And Nazig just had so much hold back. She just did not go off on either of those dogs. She held herself back, really nice and composed. She growled when they got a little too close. So he put away the male, and it was just the female. And the 2 of them got acclimated, and the next thing you know, they're best friends, and they're running around the yard with us, and they're playing and hardcore and all this other stuff. So really, really good there in terms of learning each other. But there were 2. There's still that male she never got on good terms with, and then there was a new male that they got, who's nicer than in my opinion, nicer than the older male that they have, the other male. Anyways, so this October, the 3 German Shepherds they got out or went out or whatever into the front yard. I think they came across the street to our place, and Nazig caught wind of that. And again, there's still 2 dogs she doesn't know over there, and here's the other thing, she was just the absolute beginning of the heat cycle. Not, there was no blood or anything like that, but I believe it was maybe a week, 10 days later where she actually started going into heat. So there's some hormonality involved there, whatever. But she refused commands, and she took off across the front yard. And there's a road separating our property from the neighbors. And she was ready to cross the road. Angela had to go get her car to go over to get her. And she wasn't just running off to run off. She was going over to confront the neighbor's dogs. And Angela had to stop her. And I was finally able to, Angela went and stopped her. And she was at a distance barking from the center. And I was finally able to go over there and grab her and bring her back home. So, comparing your Gamprs to a German Shepherd dog. She could have cleaned the clocks of the 2 German Shepherds, that's for sure. 3 of them might be a bit more difficult, but I would not have put it past her. Another part of it is, how much do the dogs how do the dogs play? Because play is a behavior that sort of reinforces ways of doing things. It, tones the muscles, the nerves, the brain for certain actions, etc. So when Viktor and Nazig play, there's a lot of chasing around the yard, but there's also, especially when Nazig was younger, there was a lot of play fighting. That was the bulk of it. I'm on top of you. I've grabbed you by the scruff. I'm dragging you around, etc. Oh, you're coming at me. I'm going to jump out of the way and I'm going to go at you like this. So, other dogs, I don't, dogs saber spar with their teeth and they do all this stuff, but the kind of up on both legs and grab by the scruff and all of this stuff, this style of play is 100% for getting used to fighting off other animals. It's play fighting. It's fighting. It's play fighting. So there's more experience with, I'm in this situation. I'm doing it for fun right now. But then when things get serious, I know how to dial it up and make it a lethal situation. So anyway, so that's the two of them. That was their worst behavior. The best behavior is, let's start with one of them, was getting Viktor and her used to goats. I would say they're used to goats and used to other animals. There's a lot. Honestly, there's a lot of examples of good behavior. Nobody's perfect, but that goes for dogs too. But being out in the yard, and especially lately, now that Nazig's more mature and Viktor's had more training and all this other stuff, when we're out there and there's something they're invested in, barking at or something, and I'm able to say, come on, and just sort of, I say, come on, and they both will come with me. Just, there's no pulling, no hassle, no questioning, no hesitation. They will both come with me. And I would love to keep working on that in a bunch of different situations and get that consistent across the board. And I think it will happen, especially once we're out in Holly and we have the space and all this other stuff. And they're exhausted all the time because they're going to be working full time out there. So, anyways, maybe that finally answers our first question. How does Nazig's temperament differ from Viktor's? Is two completely different dogs, and it's shocking. It could be sexual differences. It's shocking that they're the same breed. Again, another thing is Viktor more reactive, but it's not to animals and it's not to people. In fact, as far as being nice to people, Viktor has the better track record than Nazig. Neither of the dogs have ever hurt any people. Nazig has never, ever done anything aggressive, defensive, nothing to me. And Viktor, only once, last summer, which a couple of months after we got Nazig, there was this huge thunderstorm. And I'll give them like ribs and stuff like that, and I'll take it off. And sometimes Viktor really likes to cache stuff. Nazig doesn't really cache. Maybe once or twice she's done it. And thunderstorms going, so Viktor's all worked up, etc. And so he went out in the thunderstorm and he had dug up his thing of ribs, and he's sitting in the middle of the path with it. And I go out because I'm tired of he's barking his head off at the thunderstorm. All this stuff is going on. It's like midnight. I want to be in bed. I want to go to sleep. And I went to go get him because I was like, Viktor, come here. This is going on, and he's not listening. So I went outside and I went to grab him and bring him inside. And thunder's flashing, all this other stuff. And I get maybe about 4 feet away from him, like, come on, let's go inside, like getting serious. And he looks up at me and he growls at me and he does the little lip thing. And then I hit him back don't literally hit him. Did not hit him. I metaphorically hit him back with a, how would, like your parents talking to you if you like if you like lied to them about your school grades or something like that, or you like crashed the car and said, yeah, I'm not going to pay for it, it's your guys, just hit you with something disrespectful. And I hit him with, how dare you do that to me? Like, I got my dad vibes of like, how dare you say that to me? And I just looked at him, and the ears went back, and suddenly I think he realized, oh, that's dad. That's dad that I'm looking at. This isn't some random person, or this is dad's not even trying to take my stuff. This is dad that I'm looking at here. And I grabbed him by the scruff, and he came right with me into the house. And he dropped the whip, so I gave him something in the house too. So that was the only time that he's ever done that to me, was that one time. Nazig, not even once. Not even once over anything. So, and I'll go into food aggression either because there as well, because there's the answer that actually in our situation is absolutely nothing like I think anybody could imagine. So we'll get on to another question though, because we are already 40 minutes in. Not that it really matters, but how would you describe the day-to-day energy level of both dogs? So before we got Nazig, Viktor was very high energy. It was like, okay, you have to have your mile walk every day or you will drive me nuts and you won't go to the bathroom in the backyard. Now that we have Nazig, we haven't walked for, since we got her. We went on a couple of walks with both the dogs, but like nothing compared to Viktor. Every day, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. Nowadays, it's, oh, you guys want to play? Go on out in the yard, and they take care of themselves. Of course, they have about a quarter acre to just run around and sniff and explore and all that stuff. So that's part of it. But energy level is, they will just lay down all day. Like today, they were mostly just laying down outside, and occasionally they get up to bark something. Sometimes I'll look out the back door and they'll be playing on the dog mound. Other times I'll look out, Nazig's sitting on the chair, Viktor's laying on the patio. And so Nazig is a puppy, like the energy of the play, it wasn't like Viktor where it's like I have to exercise, I have to move, I have to do this stuff. With Nazig, it's just like, I want to play. I just want to like bite you and work you up and like do all this stuff. And we're just going to keep going until I get so exhausted I just fall asleep. Which is not how Viktor necessarily was as a puppy. He still liked to play a lot, but it was not this go, go, go constantly. So yeah, they don't need to do much in a day when they're working and when they have each other. They manage all that on their own just fine. So yeah, so now it's like, people are like, oh, you need to spend at least this much time with your dog every day and blah, 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 and walk, blah, 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 blah. They only have a quarter acre, which I think this is the bare minimum, I feel, unless you want to be really, if you want a Gampr, if you want to get a Gampr that is less suitable for livestock guardian dog application and you are looking for a companion animal, which I would advise against because of these very reasons, you really need like at least a quarter acre, or just, this is another thing, another dog. You need at least 2 dogs, and it doesn't even have to be another Gampr sized dog. You can get some spunky little terrier or something that will play with the dog, or if you want to upset at least one person in the chat, get a pit bull or something. Obviously polar opposite uses between a bully breed and a Gampr in terms of what they were bred for, etc. But you need to have another dog for a Gampr. They aren't just kept alone in Armenia. Nazig would probably be okay by herself, but as a puppy, she would have been hell for every human around her because of just how much and how hard she wanted to play. And Viktor raising Nazig is 100% what tempered him down, was doing that, having to deal with her 24/7, play with her, get bit by her, be instigated by her, just all this stuff 24/7 is what made him so unchangeably tired and mellow, 100%. So So yes, another dog is almost a must. They, even with livestock, they can't play with them like they can with other dogs. And now I'll go to play with the dogs. And now, when Nazig was a puppy, she played with anyone and anything. But now that she's an adult, they want to play with each other. I'll do the play bows and say, "You want to play?" and try to get them worked up. And they'll start. Victor might start chasing me. Nazig might start chasing me a little bit. But then the second the other one comes over, they redirect that right onto the other dog, because playing with another dog is infinitely more fun to them than playing with a human. So, um, anyway, so for energy, it's like it's not even a factor in they are not border collies or herders or any of those dogs that are just high strung. They aren't even doodles. They are not like that. Like, when they have what they need, they are just relaxed and they are fine with just laying outside all day. So, hopefully that answers that questions. How much of those temperamental? Okay, so the temperamental energetic differences, do I think are due to sex, genetics, lineage, etc.? I think a lot of it's age. I think a lot of it's how fulfilled the dogs are feeling in their life. Again, having another dog calms them down. They have a companion. They have something to sniff, to smell, to chase, to dig with, all that stuff. So I think the energetics again the puppies, the Gampr puppies. I mean, the only other dog I've had for its whole life was a yellow lab when I lived with my parents, and she would play with me and all that stuff, and she loved to fetch and retrieve, etc. Which Victor does not have that wiring. There's no wiring for fetching that dog. Nazig, there's a little bit of it. You could train it up if you wanted to, but Victor, no wiring for that. Um, so, and I don't. I remember raising her as a puppy, lots of love and all this stuff, but I don't remember her needing as much of the play and the rough housing and all that stuff as the Gompers have. So, which on the one hand, it's a lot of fun. It is so fun to just YouTube demonetized. It is so fun to just beat up the puppies. Like, they will just sit there. And this is a perfect time to mention another reason why I think that both of the dogs are the angels and fine with all kinds of physicality, is because from being a little puppy, I will fingers in the nose, in the mouth, on the gums, in the ears, in the ear holes, on the leg, on the paws, on the tail, on the everything. Grab, shove your face, blow air, stick your tongue, whatever, like, do all kinds of weird stuff, and they will just get used to it, and you won't have problems when they're older. When our lab, I remember she was a great dog. She would listen to, if she got out the front door, you say, "Crystal, come here," and she'd come right back, no matter what. So perfect obedience, etc. She would get defensive if I was being I was being a little shit to her. I'd be like trying to, kiss her face and play with her nose and all this stuff, and she'd growl a little bit, and I'd back off, and I antagonize again, blah blah blah, whatever, rinse and repeat. Me being a little shithead. Pardon my French. And there was one day that she was behind my grandma's chair, which was kind of her little safe space, and I went to antagonize her, and she snapped at me, and she like got a little piece of skin off of my face. 100% my fault. 100% was my fault. But just as a point to note here, with these dogs, not once, never even once. I can do anything to those dogs pretty much, and none of that will happen. In fact, when I take my phone out there, I can shove my face in there. They give them kisses all the time. When they got, "Oh, you guys are playing too hard." So, excuse me, dry in here. "You guys are playing too hard, and somebody's got a bloody gum or something like that. Let me check." Pull up the cheeks, look at, "Oh yeah, that looks fine." Not a single sign of, "Hey, back off. Like, I don't like this." None of that ever. That's not to say that they will just sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, I love this," which they do most of the time. But like, you flip the gum off, and now they'd be like, "What are you doing?" You should kind of pull away a little bit, but nothing defensive, no violence, no nothing. It could be nature, could be nurture. I think it is a good deal. For a lot of dogs, it's both, but I think in this case there is very good nature, and then the nurture just makes it even better. Do your dogs / these dogs need a flock to guard? If they don't have an animal to be with, you are that animal. So they just like being around people. They like being around other animals, and that's how they are. So do they need it? Just the fact that you have them, they will kind of be like that for you. So but the point is they're supposed to be sort of flexible. So Nazig will hang out with us, etc. But we can put her in my neighbor's yard as we were doing, and she knows. Oh, I'm with the goats now. Like, you know I can't get through this fence, etc. This reminds me of Nazig when she was in that yard. I was getting into going back to the dog's personalities with people. Viktor has a better track record with people than Nazig does, and that's not saying there's ever been any bad incidents, but Nazig doesn't like some women, especially older women. So there was one day she was in my neighbor's yard, and she started doing, when you have them long enough, you learn the different barks and the different noises. They mean different things. There's a sound for I have to go out because I have to poop. There's a sound for I want to go outside because there's something I want to kill. There's a sound for there's something scary here or something intimidating, and I want you to come see it, Dad. And then there's another sound for I'm dealing with this on my own, and they're just sort of off in their own space. So there's all these different noises that you just pick up on, all these different barks and stuff. So anyways, she was doing this bark that said, there's a problem here, and I want Dad or somebody to come help me deal with it. And so I go in my neighbor's yard, and the neighbor behind was out. She's an older Polish woman, and she hadn't seen Nazig before. She'd seen Viktor, but not Nazig. And she was out there, and I was like, "Oh, hey again," because there was a point in time. I think in the past when I had the other set of goats, that one of the goats got into her yard, so we were acquainted with each other. And so I was like, "Oh, hey." It's nice. She's like, "Oh, is that dog new or something like that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, this is Nazig," and Nazig's doing the deep woo woo, and the goats are about 15 feet behind her, so she's in front of the goats and in between the goats and the woman, so she's doing what she's supposed to do. And so I go up to the fence, and I'm talking. I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know what she's on the job. That's why she's acting like this." And after just maybe 2 minutes or something, Nazig comes up, and the whole tough girl act just drops, and she loves the woman, and they're petting her through the fence and all this stuff, and everything's fine. We had a get together for 4th of July, and my neighbor Diane brought some of her older lady friends, and Nazig, one of them walked in the house, and Nazig did the roof, like the woo woo woo, like the bark, like, what is this? I don't like this. Like, I'm not gonna go crazy mode on it, but I don't like this thing. And we had to get her used to the woman. Viktor, that has never happened with anybody in any context, except for when he was young. It was about 11 o'clock at night, so when nothing's usually going on in the yard. And some police officers came up to the side fence with flashlights, and they were saying, like, "Hey, we got a report somebody maybe had a break-in around here. We wanted to just go in your yard and just check things out." So here's 2 people at an odd hour up at the back fence waving flashlights. There's an air of tenseness over everything, and Viktor was barking at bay at them, and I said, "Okay, come on, let's go in the house." And I got him to go in the house, and everything was okay. So, but that's a very reasonable context for a dog to react that way. But again, it's very similar with Nazig. Again, here's their sort of space, and here's what they're supposed to be protecting, and here's something that's not supposed to be there, and they're going to just sort of keep tabs on it, and that's what they do. But that's the only thing. In fact, I'm almost like afraid if somebody broke into my house that the dogs might pick up on the context. Obviously they'd see if I was upset or something like that, and they would react to that. But I really don't know if they would do anything violent about it. I don't even know if they would. Like, I know Viktor would just be excited to see somebody, I feel. And if anybody, it might be Nazig being more reserved, and they might be at odds over each other at what they're going to do in that situation. So again, they might pick up on if I felt uncomfortable or Angela felt uncomfortable. They might be able to detect that and respond accordingly. But we have never had anybody. We've had parties and get-togethers and all this stuff of people coming in the house, strangers, etc., and never a negative reaction other than that one time out of Nazig. Every time it's, we want to see who that is, and people will get kind of afraid of that because Nazig will come up and she's very enthusiastic to meet people. Viktor does not like how worked up she gets. When she was a puppy, she would, and even up until a couple months ago, she would jump on people and be very, again, not courteous to them. And Viktor is always trying to discipline her by doing the muzzle grab, by doing the higher pitch barking at her. So people will come in and they'll see, Viktor barking or growling, and I have to tell him it's not you, it's her. He's trying to tamper her down, and that was one of the things that I liked about the Gamprs is when I first went to meet the ones that Darren had at White Rose Farm, and I went in through the gates. It was the second time. First time I met Viktor's parents, and they weren't unsure about me. I came into the backyard with Darren, and I was at first I was a little apprehensive because it's like, oh, these are the biggest dogs I've ever seen in my whole life. Now it feels like they're little tiny things. But I was like, these are the biggest dogs I've ever seen in my whole life. They might be mean. They might be blah, blah, blah. And they both come up and we say hi, and I'm giving them pets, so everything settles down. By the next time, after I spent the hour and a half, 2 hours there with them and the puppies, and I came the next time, and I was, oh, it's on, Joe. It's Hosmeek. I came in and Darren was watching one of the puppies that he had produced another litter ago, and the owners asked him to watch it. They were going out of town, whatever. So now it was two older dogs that knew me, and one younger, immature dog that didn't know me, and they all come up, and the younger dog goes to jump on me, and Viktor's mom did the deep growl and snarl at him, and he got the picture right away. She was ready to just she was trying to tell him, sit down, and that's how they do it. And he got the picture, and he didn't jump on me, and neither of the dogs that had already met me jumped on me either. So I love that. I love that the dogs have this idea of courteousness and whatnot, and respect or decency, whatever you want to call people, like dominance, whoever. But it's not like resource guarding, because both of Viktor's parents, it's manners. It's what it is. It's manners, and that's how they teach it. They can't sit the puppy in school and teach him like, okay, here's how you be a good, moral, sentient creature. It's like, this is how they do it. Which reminds me of, I think it was that time when I was there with Viktor's mom, and of course, the mom dog loves her puppies. Everybody knows that the mama dog loves her puppies. Moms love their children, etc. This is a universal thing that nobody needs to be taught. But mom was laying there, and one of the puppies is, a little crawling, grubby looking. They were past the grub stage, but they're in the chunky stage where they're moving around, but they're not quite fully in control of all their, they're puppies. They're little tiny puppies. This was around maybe 6-7 weeks. And the puppy is just doing something. Mom's sitting there and just laying there or something, and the puppy just does something. I don't know. I'm a human. I have no idea what mom saw. And she flipped on that pup. This little cute tiny puppy, just a little tiny cutest little thing in the whole world. She flipped, and she had fangs at that puppy's throat, and if you just came in on that scene not knowing that was the mom, you would think she was about to kill that puppy. And that's how they teach them. I have no idea. What caused her to do this? I don't know. Maybe the puppy was crawling towards a bone that she liked. Maybe the puppy was crawling on her back leg, and that's the whole mob of puppies comes up to her when they want to feed, and she thought that the puppy was trying to get her to give it milk, and she didn't want to give it milk, and she was trying to tell it to back off, and that's how she did it. Just that's how they teach their puppies. And again, it's the mom. It's the mom dog. The mom dog, the last thing she wants on the planet is for any of the puppies to get hurt. But that's how they teach them. That is the snarling, the physicality, all that stuff is how they teach the puppies. So anyway, so I liked that. I liked the enforcement of manners, and that the dogs were looking out for me, and they thought I would be uncomfortable if this other dog jumped on me. Again, if it's more like, hey, don't be a little asshole to this guy, was what they were basically telling the older dog, and they did not have to escalate it because that dog listened. So stranger danger. Okay, so that's basically what we're talking about. So again, Gamprs have been used for guarding property and all this stuff. All this stuff is on the Gampr website. The dogs that I have, I don't know if they could do that sort of job. I don't know how good they are at a general, oh, I need a bodyguard, I need a dog to protect me in this way, whatever. They're not really, nothing these two have done has really told me that they are suitable for that work. They are be in a space, and if something goes weird and something's wrong, I'm going to make sure my owner knows, and I'm just going to keep it as far away from what I perceive as being mine or under my keep as I can, with barking and intimidation and all this other stuff. So let's same-sex aggression. So this is a good one. So there are Gamprs have varying, being an ancient primitive land race. There are dogs with varying wolfiness sort of qualities in them. And Bark will tell you some of these things, and they preface it with, this is not saying, oh, your dog is part wolf. It's saying, these are some alleles that your dog has that other domesticated dogs don't usually have, and they could be evidence of just these retained traits from the original domestication event. Could be thousands of years ago, whatever. Something there could have been an influx of wolfiness, what have you. The most notable one with Viktor is he has wolf sable coat coloring, which is not common in any dog breeds. I think the only other dog breed it's some degree of common in is Pomeranians or something like that. But there is something to be admired and something that people may not want in some of those characteristics. So again, you think, oh, he's going to be mean to people or something like that because that's what this breed does, and that's what these alleles, whatever, can cause. But that's not there. However, Viktor wants that hierarchy, or wants certain things that I think there are communication issues between him and Nazig sometimes, because they're both expressing things in different ways. So, but it's only, Viktor's problems are only with other dogs, and he has more of that snap in him with other dogs. So there was a time where I was walking with my friend Brandon, and somebody was walking down the other side of the street with a bully mix or something like that, and he was ready to go. He was ready to just end it right there, and I had to lift him up and pull him back on the leash, and that was all that I could do. That being said, he knows my neighbor Karen's two little dogs, little Pomeranian mixes. Loves them, gentle, wants to hump them, etc., and has been great with them forever. He, when we got Nazig, I told my dad, you go to the end of the hallway, you sit down, and you hold the leash like your life depends on it, because he's going to see this dog, and his first instinct is going to be to kill, and we have to just hold him there until his brain calms down, and he says, "Oh, this is a girl. Oh, this is a little puppy. Oh, this kind of my dad's smell is all over it too. This is fine." And that's what we did. And for the first 20 to 30 seconds, Victor was in kill mode when we brought this sweet little, cute little black and white puppy that he loves to death now into the house. And then you can tell right away when the barking goes from the vicious, "I don't know, that's my house, I don't know you," to, "Oh, well, I want to see this thing. I'm excited. I want to see this thing." And so after that, it was fine. So I told Angela, I have no doubt that he can make male dog friends. No doubt in my mind. But the problem is he has that snap in him that I'd have to find somebody who's willing to sacrifice their dog, their male dog, or just their dog, in the sense that, hey, I need to get my dog used to a male dog and make a male dog friend. Can you sit there with your beloved dog while I sit over here and hold my dog on a leash, and he's going to look like he's going to kill your dog because that's what he wants to do until he calms down and realizes it isn't a threat. So so I have no doubt that he can make male dog friends. I have no concerns about raising puppies and having a male puppy, keeping back one of his male puppies. I have no concerns about that. But this is where the differences in the two of them come in. So and this is the frequency of this has gone down dramatically as Nazig has gotten older. But Nazig as a puppy was very disrespectful. She would want to take things from Victor. She wants to, again, be the first to greet people. All these things that her as being younger and not trained and not, whatever it is, dominance, whatever it is, not being, she should not have been in charge as a puppy. And so Victor would frequently do the muzzle grab, these softer things. But when she would take something, like come over to try to take food from him or something, he would go off on her. And as she got older, these went from being just tellings off, and Nazig does not back down. That's the other thing with this confidence is Victor is looking for signs of submission. Victor is looking for, if I growl at you or I look at you a certain way, you are going to tuck your tail down and you're going to slink away and you're going to show me that you're not a threat. That is not Nazig. Nazig is, I want that thing. I'm not necessarily going to take it from you, but if you put it down, I'm going to grab it right away. And beyond that is not the tail down, the eye aversion. Nazig stares. The second she thinks things are escalating, she does not think, oh, I'm going to be nice. Oh, it's out of my place to do this. Oh, like I think some dogs would do and like wolves do. Hers is, you want to go? You are not in charge here. And so we have had a couple of intense, nothing requiring any sort of intense vet care or anything like that. But we have had some savage fights between the two of them, and they almost nowadays, now that she's basically full grown, always ends with her mounting him. Always. They will go into their tussle and all this stuff. They will roll around like a ball of fur and teeth and claws for 10 to 30 seconds, and he will still be growling and like I'm gonna get you, and she will crawl right on top of him and mount him despite all that. And then she will delicately dismount, and he will be submissive and aversive to her for the rest of the day. And if it's a bad enough fight, it will last a couple of days. So the worst that ever happened was when we got back from the wedding in June. And so I think that it had been about 4 or 5 days since we'd seen them. They aren't getting outside much. My dad had to come and let them out, etc. So they are not in a good state of mind. I'm not there, so Victor's nervous about that because I'm his person, etc. There's no opportunity to let out that energy, whatever. So the morning after we first got back, we go to let them outside in the morning and go out with them. And I don't even remember what the issue was. What what triggered it, but the next thing I know, the dogs are rolling all over the patio, and it's Discovery Channel, and it is, when they were younger, I learned it is worse to intervene, because if you intervene and you're not Superman and you don't immediately blast the two of them 30 feet away from each other, they just take that as an opening to go back at each other. So you have to just let it happen. And this is not, this is not a 30-pound dog and a 90-pound dog fighting, and the results of that, which could be disastrous. This is a 100-pound wiry, agile dog and a 120-pound behemoth going at each other. And you have to just let them work it out, because it will be worse if you don't. So, but at some point during this fight, and this is where I learned about the ear cropping, Nazig got a hold of Viktor's ears, because he has just a little bit cropped off the ends of it. She got a hold of one of his ears, and Angela says, I thought she was going to rip his ear off, because she was on there so good and she was pulling so hard. And eventually, everything reset, etc. But because of that fight, Viktor had a dog bite in and around his ear. And for 2 weeks, because of his neuroticism, he hid under the kitchen table, which I should tell you, he never went under the kitchen table until that fight. That was a no zone for him, that he never wanted to go underneath. It scared him. It was whatever. He hid under the kitchen table for 2 weeks and did nothing day and night but pant. And he went into a stress molt of his coat too, so there was fur everywhere for 2 weeks until that healed up. And again, this part of his brain, these more primitive genes, whatever, at some point during that, because he was all on instinct, and that also helped me, or showed me some things that I learned that are probably hardwired in him, or just in dogs in general. So things that he did not leave under that table except to eat. If I said, hey, let's go outside, he would go outside with me. He would pee, he would poop, and he would just beeline it right back into the house after he was done with that. And the only other thing that I saw him do, and this is when I shut the door after I finally got him to go outside once, he would snap at flies. And Nazig doesn't do that, but there must be one of those primitive genes to snap at fast-moving flying objects. Maybe it's a defense against horse flies or other sort of flies, which this instinct could be in there, because if you snap at the fly and you kill it, you don't get bit, you don't get some disease transferred to you. So dogs that target these large horse flies or whatever things flying around would have a selective advantage. But there's something in there that made it instinctual. It's just a little like that. He would do that. And at some point, when I closed the door and I didn't let him go to a safe space under the table, months, we had not had any problems with any of the dogs getting out of the yard or anything for months. He found a crack in the side gate, and he pushed his way through, and he went to the next place that he knew that was comfortable for him, which was my neighbor's Karen's house, which is where I would bring him when he was a little puppy sometimes. And he went over there, and she said, Kyle, Victor's in my backyard. She let him into the backyard and let me know that he was over there. So again, for 2 weeks. So that might factor into things. Now, again, like I said, if Victor's got food, he doesn't like her taking it. That being said, I put food out, free feed in a bowl. He'll eat his fill. If she tries to disrupt him while he's eating, he'll growl. Just give her a little growl. Then when he's done, he'll walk away. She can come up. She can eat whatever she wants. He doesn't come back and say, oh, that's mine, whatever. He doesn't do that. And then here's the next fun thing. So he will not let her eat at the bowl with him, but let's say the cat wants to come up and eat at the bowl, wants to eat a little bit of the dog food. That's fine. Let's say that Viktor is outside eating something, and one of the cats want to come up to him and they want to lick it or something, lick the juice or eat it with him. Guess what? That's fine. I have a video of Baloo as a kitten. I put out some hamburger meat, and Victor's over there and he's eating it out of the thing. Oh no, no! What happened first? I put it out there, and Baloo came up and he started licking it. Baloo's the cat, and he's sitting there eating a bit of it. Victor comes outside, and Victor is waiting about 2 feet away, doing a high-pitched bark at Baloo to try to get him off the food or tell him, like, hey, I want to eat that. Hey, let me have some. So there have been times where the goats have been out and I've thrown kibble or something on the ground. Dogs are fine with that. No problems. Nazig is not a problem. She would let other whatever eat out of wherever with her too. But again, illustrating for Victor, it is either he learned it when she was a puppy, learning that this thing will take stuff from me if I don't lay down the law, or it's just a dog thing. It's a I'll let my dad. I forgot to say, I can take anything from either of them. When they're eating something, I can go right up. I can take it. I can do whatever. I can walk off with it. Whatever. They don't care. It's only when she goes up to him, and it's only when he's actively doing something with something. So again, it's mind blowing because people food aggression, all this stuff for food, whatever it is. It's like he just doesn't want her to take his stuff is what it is, and he doesn't even care. And it's just another dog. Again, the cats will come up and do stuff. The goats, when I've had them in the chicken run with the chickens and I throw something down and there's an eggshell or something they want to check out, the chickens will be right up there pecking with him, and he doesn't care. So all right, let's do another question. Same-sex aggression. So we went over that too. Ease of training, biddability versus independence. The working for reward, again, we did go over, but it is they will let themselves be motivated for rewards if they want to. If they really want to do something else, they'll just do it. And that's why I said it's like, especially with recall, it's you can't let them get away with blowing you off when you are asking so little of them, basically. So, and here's the other thing with the recall. So, well, you got to make sure every time you call them back, you've got to reinforce it. Have a treat, whatever. Every time I call those dogs in, every day, they get something good. A piece of bacon, leftover chicken, some bread, some gravy, some drippings, something. They get something that is high value, tasty, sardines, whatever, every time. And yet there are still those times where they choose, or their brain is in a different place and they don't want to, or they can't listen, whatever. Even being rewarded every time religiously, they will still not listen sometimes. And that's where you have to show them there is a consequence when you don't listen. You get rewards when you do listen. All the rest of the time, you get bombarded with love and sweetness and hugs and all this stuff and kiss sandwiches, which is where Angela goes on one side of their face and I go on the other side of their face, and we give them kisses at the same time. You get all these things, but you have to listen. So, do you feel that barriers fencing are a must for this breed off-leash training? So, Victor needs at least a 5-foot fence, and we got a 6-foot fence out in Holly, so that's good. Victor doesn't go through, like he will not plow through a fence. He doesn't really go under unless there's a very clear path. He's a over. He's a find the hole and slip through it kind of dog. Nazig is the opposite. Nazig would probably respect a 3-foot fence, but she will sit there and she'll try to say, well, can I like put my paws over it and like climb over it? Oh no, I can't. Maybe I'll try again in a couple days. But she'll say, oh, there's something's in my way here. I can push through it. I can paw at it until it breaks. I can dig and push and go underneath it, and who cares if it's kind of hard to fit through? I'll just keep pushing because I'm so big and strong. So really, it's the worst combination for me because I can't just guarantee that the dog is going to stay in the. I can guarantee pretty much that Victor's going to stay in the paddock. I can't guarantee that Nazig won't just dig under and get out because she feels like it. And I may have to make some accommodations for that. Put down some protective wire there because it needs to be a safe place for the dogs to be thrown out into 24/7. The thing is, in the wild of Armenia, there's a sheep camp and there's like very little else for miles. And the dogs know this is where I get my food. This is where my friends are. This is where my flock is. This is where all this stuff happens. So even if they wander off, one, it's not going to cause any problems. Where are they going to go? Like, they're not going to go cause problems in a neighbor's yard or something like that. They have their camp. They have their home base. But for us, it's like the mile radius that may be the normal range for a dog in Armenia, where it will never leave that unless it smells something in heat or whatever. It will always return to its sheep camp, even if it goes off for a couple hours or days or whatever. That we can't have that where we are. Most of us can. I'm fortunate out in Holly that that's kind of more of an option where it's like, well, I don't have to worry too much. It's not like there's 100+ houses with dogs and other stuff around here that the dog is going to cause problems at if it gets out or whatever. That being said, with Victor, when he gets out, there's again this instinct. There's this part of his brain that just takes over, and I don't think he would cause any problems for anybody else. I think there's a sense of, I'm out of my territory. I'm just sort of going after this smell or doing this thing, and I'm not going to cause any problems. I don't have enough experience with Nazig doing breaking out or getting out or anything like that to say how she would be. So, let's see. That's another thing. Training with animals. There's no like, oh, good boy, here's treats, etc. for getting them used to animals. You need to have a culture of calmness. You gotta the animals you have to understand the dogs aren't a threat, and the dogs have to understand that this animal is a normal thing. And it's easier with hoof stock and with mammals because there's some similarity of body language, and physical touch is affectionate and licking is affectionate and all this stuff. So with the goats, it was super easy to acclimate the dogs to them. Like they just took to it so naturally. The cats, Nazig liked to chase Baloo when he was little. And I always thought, well, she's going to play too hard with him and it's going to cause problems. But the thing is, when the cat has had enough, does not necessarily run away, it will turn and rake claws and bat and hiss and do all this other stuff. So when something runs, that's when they like to chase it. And they do learn eventually, oh, I shouldn't chase this thing when it runs. But you got to be there to teach them, to help them, until the animal that they're chasing after starts to learn, oh, these things aren't a threat. Oh, I'm fine with them. But they can learn. Their nose, their eyes, just their senses, and they can learn very quickly when something is not right, so or not allowed. So one example is, we have the two cats, Mon and Baloo, best friends with the dogs. Mon, she's just around. She hangs out with me. She hangs out with them. She doesn't necessarily have a relationship with either of them, but they know, oh, this thing's fine. I like this thing. Baloo and Nazig actually have a thing. Might be the whole she's a female, he's a male, whatever. But she used to play with him, chase him a lot when she was little. Now she'll give affectionate licks. He'll go up and present his face, and he'll walk up alongside Victor and do the tail, the like, oh, you're mine, you're my sort of thing. And Victor will sometimes will try to hump Baloo. That's another thing I should say really quick. If the dog is being sexual with something, you're golden. Like, you're perfect, because the dogs, especially the male dogs, I don't know enough to say how females express sexuality or whatever. If the male dog wants to hump something, that means it is bonded with it. It wants to be affectionate and it wants to love it. So he's tried to hump the goats. He's tried to hump the cats. He's tried to hump the rabbits. He's tried to hump a lot of things. So that is a good sign for a male dog to want to hump whatever it is that they're taking care of. That's like your instant sign that, oh yeah, this is fine. So when, just some example going on with the cats, because this is a big one I know. So when we first got Baloo and both the dogs were acclimated to him, it was maybe a couple of weeks after we had him. He was off somewhere in the backyard. It was nighttime. and he was coming down one of the trees on the side of the property. And the dogs, I just let them out, whatever. They didn't recognize him at first. So he's coming down the tree, and Viktor heads at him with like the prepared to strike, ready to go for the killing blow. And he gets up to him, and I'm right there too, because it's like, oh no, they're gonna go after Blue. I don't know how this is gonna go. And I'm right there with him, and he gets right up to him, ready to just end it all, and just stops. Like the second he got close enough to smell or see or whatever it was, he was like, oh, this is my little friend. I'm not gonna do anything to this. And everything was fine. And Baloo didn't run or anything like that because he knew the dogs, etc., etc. Um, let's see what else. So, with that being said, so they know and love both the cats. They'll see them when they're outside. They recognize them. Everybody's got a rapport with each other. My neighbor's cat, though the dogs don't know personally, and is very flighty. So Mon disappeared for a whole day, last week or the week before, sometime, and I was very concerned because she never spends the night outside. She goes outside, she does her business, she comes back inside. Sometimes she'll be out a couple hours, but always comes back at the end of the day, etc. She was gone, and I think what happens is a little territorial spat. I think some of the neighborhood cats are going to the heat or whatever, and even though some of them are fixed, whatever, there's stuff's going on with the cats in the neighborhood. And my neighbor's cat was probably coming into this yard or was keeping Mon trapped in that yard. Maybe they got into a fight. Mon didn't want to leave under the deck or something like that. So, but this one night, the dogs wake me up with the sound of we got something and we're ready to kill it. And I go outside and it's, I don't know, 4 a.m. or something, and I have my glasses on and I can't see very well, and I got my slippers on, and I walk up to the lattice fence and I'm like, is that Baloo? And I'm getting my face closer and closer to this cat. I can't see it. It's dark out. The dogs are going crazy behind me. They're jumping and trying to climb over the fence and all this stuff. I finally get close and it's like, oh, that's not Baloo. That's some other cat. And the cat's hissing and it's sitting at the top of the fence and all this stuff. And so they know the difference between different animals. They even know the difference between different chickens. My neighbor was getting rid of his chickens. He gave me one of his chickens that I really wanted. I brought it back here. I threw it with the flock. And then a couple of days later, I was letting the dogs in there to sniff around, eat scraps, whatever they like going in there. And Viktor, after a couple of minutes, soloed out the chicken that my neighbor had given me out of all the ducks and the muscovies and the different chickens that I already had, probably about 40, 50 birds. He soloed out the one chicken that my neighbor gave me and was starting to antagonize it. And it took about a week or two to get him to stop doing that to that one chicken because he did not know it. It was not familiar to him. So they know, and that's the other thing is, they love these two cats. They would protect these cats. They will never, ever, ever hurt these two cats. I guarantee they will never, ever do anything bad to these cats or any of these other animals that they've built this relationship with. But the second a strange cat gets in this yard, it is dead. They will kill it with no hesitation. So that's just, again, the thing. The fact of the matter is, they can guard. They can protect a lot of stuff. They gotta build some sort of understanding of, oh, this is fine, this thing's safe, I know what this thing is, it smells a little bit like my dad, it's nice to me, whatever. Are you planning to get your pups cropped? So going back to what happened with Viktor, so realizing they say, oh yeah, we crop the dogs of the ears is to prevent easy holds from wolves and bears and all this other stuff. That may be true, but it is also very likely that the cropping will save your dogs from going through what Viktor went through. Because if he didn't have his ears, that wouldn't have happened. He would not have hid under the table for 2 weeks. We wouldn't have had all this stuff happen. The fight wouldn't have been as bad because Nazig wouldn't have gotten a good grip on him, etc. That being said, I do think there are health benefits to cropping the ears in the sense that So there's some complaints that, oh, the dog, they'll get more stuff in theirs, you have to clean more often, but we haven't ever had to clean Nazig's ears. They've been healthy. If you look at all wild canine species, all of them have upright ears where dirt, whatever, can get right into the ear canal, etc. Um, but another thing with Victor is the folds of the ears during the summertime when it's humid and hot. He got a sore in one of his ears, and I had to put the blue coat on it and stuff like that. And it did not ever really, it took a long time for that to heal up, and the winter dryness basically to get that to not be an issue. So I think part of it is cropping the ears is they've been doing it for thousands of years for the dog's health reasons. And by doing that, it's probably like animals like the Panethia roaches or ant queens, etc., where, yeah, surely you would say, oh, if this was bad, they would have evolved it away. But they did not have to have a genetic way of getting rid of the ears or the floppiness of the ears. They could have a cultural or a physical method. So, like with ant queens, they chew off their ears when they land they chew off their wings when they land and they get ready to make a nest. You could say, well, why don't they just evolve a way to like pop them off or like not even have wings or whatever? It's like, because this other way is easier. It was easier to code for in behavior. It was easier to do whatever. They needed the wings at some point. Same thing with the Panethia roaches. Well, they chew up their wings. Why did they do that? Couldn't they just like chew them off at the base and have it be a nice clean cut? No, it doesn't matter. It was they needed the wings to be functional. They get from log A to log B. They're in log B. There wasn't enough of a selective region to get rid of the wings. Maybe they needed the extra protein or something from the wings, and that's why they chew them off when they get there instead of just popping them off and being done with them. I don't know. But my argument here is they've cropped the dog's ears for thousands of years, for probably over 4,000 years, something like that. And so when you do that and every dog has its ears cropped, suddenly you don't have to worry about, oh, the dog ear needs to evolve certain secretions or uprightness to stop it from getting an infection, an issue, a life crippling infection, whatever. You have this other forces. It doesn't matter if the dog has to evolve upright ears or something like that. They're all getting their ears cropped. It's a non-issue. Like it's something that doesn't even factor in because the dogs are all having this done to them. Then when you stop doing that and you start having problems, and you're, well, why are we having ear infections or ear sores or all this other stuff, or the dogs fight and then it really stresses them out and sets them back or whatever. Well, you didn't do this thing that was done for thousands of years. All these other behaviors and traits evolved in the context of all the dogs having their ears cropped. So that's my explanation for that. So we will be cropping the ears. I think it's enough to just get it in the old country. They go right down to like the base. You see some dogs and it's like right down to the base. I think that's too much. I think like what Nazig has, or just enough to get the flop of the ear off is good enough. That way they still have the movement of the base of the ear and it's not, ridiculously short, etc. So and let's see, I think that's all of the questions and topics. I'll end this stream. I think I'll probably go outside and we'll do a stream with the dogs outside and just spend a little time with them there in a couple, or once this one wraps up and I get a quick drink. When I went out to Darren's place to get Victor, and we were talking about the dogs, and I was trying to see, oh, what are they like? Are they mean? Are they this? Are they that? Or whatever. At the end of everything, at some point, he just said, they're good dogs. He didn't say, oh, they're the best dogs ever. You got to get one. He just said, they're good dogs. And that just stuck with me because, like, yeah, they are good dogs. Like, both of them, they misbehave sometimes. They get out sometimes. We had Nazig when she was younger. One of my rabbits got out. She didn't kill it in a predatory way, which there's a huge difference. And once you see it, you can really see it. But she was playing with it like it was another dog, and she killed it because she was playing with it. Just like how dogs play. They bite, they pull, they flip, they do all this stuff. And when you do that to a rabbit that you don't do that to, it's over fast. So they're not perfect, but I know they're going to be great for the work that we need them to do, and some of it's training. And as far as, you know, they're meant to be used for work. They're they need that space, or they need the companionship. They need the something of having another dog around, and they need those sort of bonds to feel complete, I feel. So they're not a dog they're huge. That's the other thing. Um, they're huge dogs. Uh, I do think, and martial arachnids, I don't mean to be offensive, but you need to make sure that you can physically overpower the dog if you absolutely need to, is what I would tell. And that should be a thing for anybody with any animal. So that's something to keep in mind. And I'll just one other thing. So I don't keep collars on the dogs, and a lot of people do work with collars on and always have the collars on. And both of them are microchipped. But when I work with them and I teach them commands and I do the go get to bring them back in when they don't listen, the few times they don't, I always do it without the collar on, because I think if I was in just a absolute wild scenario, the dog got out and something happened and I didn't. The dog without the collar is the base form of the dog. I need to be able to deal with the base form of the dog, because something could happen to a collar. Maybe the dog slipped out of the house or something when the collar was off, or he took it off at the vet, and blah blah. So I work with the dogs with no collars, because at their core they will learn everything. When you put the collar on, it's something else. And for these dogs, it means, like for Victor especially, the collar means we're going for a walk. And so, also, by the way, on a leash, Victor is better. I thought, I thought at first that he's not good on a leash. Whatever, you just see people walking with dogs, and the dog's walking, doesn't leave their side, whatever. Victor is probably better than 90% of dogs on a leash, and that's from me working with him. You don't let the dog pull. You teach them what is expected of them when the leash and the collar is on. There's a new set of rules they have to play by when they have the collar on, and they pick it up so good. I think a lot of animals just do that too. Um, Nazig, we don't walk on the leash much. They get all their exercise out in the yard. They play with each other, blah blah blah. So we never really had a reason to take her on a walk. But the times when I had to, like one time she got out, and when a piece of the fence blew down in the backyard, I had to go retrieve the dogs. She got out. I got the collar on her, and over the course of just her and I being out in the front yard on the street looking for Victor for about 10 minutes, she was able to pick up the leash commands just over the course of 10 minutes. We like, come on, or let's go. And, I say like, stop when we stop, and, very specific, clear, unchanging commands. And then the dog knows exactly what to do when you're on the leash. And some people say, well, they got to always be at this position when they're leashed. And you could argue that, and you can work on that. But I love the fact that when I'm with the dogs on a leash, that I can say exactly what we're going to do, exactly what I want to do, and they know exactly. And there's no question of what's going on. Everybody's on the same page, and that way it makes it really effective when we're out on a walk or something like that. So Victor's great with that. We do stop. What do we do? We do stop, and it was, again, a very small set of things. Stop, let's go, or come on. When I want him to like leave something alone, I just say leave it, come on, and he'll go with that. I would do when I wanted to pick up our pace to more of like a trot. And then if I wanted him to just go full bore and run with me, I say cut loose, and he loved that. He knew exactly, what was going on with that, and it was so good just for us to be on the same page about everything, and not, all this stuff. But the bottom line is, they're not they love you. They want to love you. They want to be loved. That does not mean they want to please you. They do not have that in them. They are not food motivated in the way that a lab or something is. They have a mind of their own. But again, for the most part, They're good dogs, and I can't imagine my life without them. And I am super eager to work with the breed for the rest of my life. Like, I have no doubts about that. Like, I cannot imagine my life without Gamprs in it now. Like, it's impossible. And Angela can't either. She loves Nazig so much. Just, she says, more than any other. Well, she says, oh, I love all the dogs, but she says she has a special bond with Nazig she has never had with any other dog or animal ever. So, with that being said, again, I'm going to get something to drink. We'll wrap up this stream here. We'll go outside, spend a little bit of time with the dogs in their element, and that'll be that. So thank you all for tuning in. For other people who are interested in pups, I hope you love this hour and 40 minutes. Hope it kind of brought you up to speed on things. I do want to touch one last time, and this is information that's on the Gampr site, but I want to touch one last thing on diet. So everybody's so, oh, my little poopy has a food allergy and we have to feed it this and that and blah, blah, blah. Both Nazig has a more sensitive stomach than Viktor, which is weird because she has a bigger, wider appetite than Viktor does. And she really does best self-regulating. When she was a puppy, house breaking, the anything goes, laissez-faire, oh yeah, I'm fine with whatever. Attitude translated also into potty training. So it was harder to get her to only go outside. And when she was at a certain stage, when she was older, even then, whatever the food that we were feeding, the schedule that we were feeding it on, or the schedule that she could feed herself on, she would very frequently have accidents in the house. Now, since she's outside a lot more, we don't have that problem, and her stool looks a lot better. It's well formed. I think it's just the movement, the activity, the ability to go right when you need to and not have to ask to go out. Viktor will hold everything for days if he had to, then go in the house. Like he potty trained like super quickly after I got him. But the thing is, because he refuses to go in the house, even if it's dire, his anxiety will just throttle up if he has to go to the bathroom. So when he was younger and I had to basically take him on walks to get him to go to the bathroom, that sucked because that meant even with the whole backyard, he still wouldn't want to go to the back of the yard and go to the bathroom unless we were outside working, and then he'd go off and do it. But it was like most of the time, it's like, Dad, I have to go. That means we have to go for a walk. So, anyways, with food, they get a high quality kibble available all the time. It's the From. I used to do the large breed adult, which the vet said was fine for puppies too. Now I've been doing the From just ancient grains stuff, and the dogs like that a lot. Sometimes the cats come and sneak a little bit of it too. Nazig does not seem to have, even given her age and other factors, she does not have any issues in the house with this ancient grains stuff. But in addition to that, all kinds of stuff. Basically, if the dogs want it, if we're eating it and we have scraps of it, they get it. Meat, bones, cooked, raw, bread, soup broth that's got all kinds of spices mixed into it, all this stuff. Anything the dogs want to eat, we will give to them, basically. So, and we have not had, when Nazig was having her problems in the house, I took her into the vet. I thought, oh, she's got a parasite or something. She's got Giardia, or she's got worms or whatever. They did all kinds of fecals. They said, oh, yep, she's fine. So it was probably just that old formula that was not the other From, the large breed adult, that didn't sit well with her for whatever reason. So, but now bread and all kinds of stuff. And I think people definitely, and there's probably a commercial incentive for this. People freak out about what they feed their dogs. And the other thing about our dogs is the weight. Perfect. Viktor's got more of a slimmer wolfy build, which is what I will be selecting for in Gamprs moving forward. It's what the club wants. The thinner, not thinner, but the less broad dogs is what they want. The ones that have a nice, even wolf-like gait is what you want. Nazig, she's wider. She's got a bit more of a rocking gait. It's harder on the joints, all this other stuff. I'm sure she is still fine by most dog standards. She came from good lines, all this other stuff through the club, blah, blah, blah. But Viktor, I am certain, will never have any sort of bone, joint, whatever issues his entire life. He is just perfectly built to not fall apart. Again, Nazig, she may have some arthritis and stuff as she gets older, but hip dysplasia, all kinds of genetic issues are not a problem with Gamprs. The only one is the degenerative myelopathy, the retina or whatever, I think it was, which you can test for very easily. Both of the dogs are free of all genetic illnesses or anything. Both of the Viktor and Nazig have absolutely no genetic illnesses. That information is on their embark profiles, which I can provide to people who are interested. Nazig has one or two alleles for liver enzymes thing, which just means that her certain enzymes in her liver are elevated compared to how most dogs or normal dogs have it. It's not a sign of any sort of illness or anything like that. It's simply just a trait that some Gamprs can have. It just says that, oh, hey, if your dog gets sick and there's something wrong with it, and you go to the vet and they say, whoa, the liver enzymes are high. It's not. That's not necessarily because of the sickness or whatever causing it. It's basically helpful for diagnosing if you ever have problems. So yes, martial arachnids, that was a big thing. One of the biggest reasons why I got Viktor is he perfect on his both his parents. So he's clean across the board. Again, Nazig also clean on both parents, clean across the board, except for this one liver enzyme thing. But again, that's diagnostic. It's not, oh, this is a health issue. It's just be aware of this if you go to do blood work or whatever. That she's going to have different results than other dogs. So, but yeah, with the food, it's just like they just feed them whatever. Their wild diet in Armenia is stale bread and moldy cheese, and I can take a piece of moldy mozzarella from the back of the fridge out and give it to Nazig, and she will eat it without any problems. She will eat it happily, and she won't have diarrhea or anything like that. In fact, the only time we were having the problems with the stool was when she was being fed the dog food only, basically. And Viktor, when he was a puppy, I was giving him, because I was training him and I loved him, blah, blah, blah. I was giving him a lot of meat. I was just raw meat from the store. And they say, don't give pork, it's too high in fat. And don't give raw meat from the store because it's high in blah, blah, blah. But, these dogs, Viktor's grandparents were actually, both of Viktor's parents when they were growing up were imports. So these dogs, not even one generation back, were growing up being fed basically trash in Armenia, and they've been fed basically trash for thousands of years. And so that I don't worry about that. Again, the dairy and all this stuff. Nazig loves yogurt. It's like her favorite thing. She will eat a whole giant thing of yogurt if you let her. So it's where I was going with when Viktor was younger, and I fed him a lot more meat because I could afford to, and he was young, and I want to make sure he loves me and all this stuff. One day he buried a whole rack of ribs out in the compost pile. He dug it up 3 or 4 days later, and it was just dripping, just drenched in maggots, just falling off of this stuff. And he ate it. He ate it. He put it out there, and it aged, and it ended up smelling good. And he went out and he ate it. And I thought, when these dogs are out in the field, I have no control over what they're going to eat. They can catch all kinds of small mammals and squirrels and groundhogs, and they have eaten both squirrels and groundhogs before. And I can't do anything about it. What am I going to do? Sit out there 24/7 and make sure they don't eat something weird or whatever? And when they were puppies, when Viktor was puppies, and I went to visit one of the times, and I hung out there for a couple hours again, I look at the puppies, and they're all teething, and they're chewing on stuff. And here's 3 puppies chewing at the top of a pokeweed plant, like right where the stem connects to the plant. And they're sitting there, and they're just mindlessly puppy teething on this extremely poisonous plant. And I thought, they haven't died. Like they're not in the they're not dying as I watch them right now. It's clear they've been chewing on this stuff for days. you know, what am I going to say? Like they shouldn't be doing this. It's horrible for them. Like it's. I mean, I would think it's not healthy, but here they are. They're doing it, and they're not dying, and everything's fine. And out in the yard, people are always like, "Oh, our dog ate a battery. Our dog ate this." These dogs have never eaten anything strange like that. They never eaten plastic or rags or silverware or batteries or metal or aluminum or anything like that. They never even touch any of that stuff. So maybe with other breeds of dog, maybe they don't have those instincts to really be able to differentiate food from non-food. Um, maybe I think this might be a part of it. It's neurotic tendencies that are gained when they're puppies, you know, or the food motivation or something like that. Anything smells even remotely like food, you got to eat it down really fast, either because your genetics tell you to do that, or you grew up with your siblings stealing food from you. So anything that you think is food, you got to horf it down as fast as you can so nobody takes it from you. So, but yeah, I trust them. I never go like, oh, I should really pull up the pokeweed in the backyard and get rid of this plant and that plant and the buttercups and blah blah blah. They're going to eat those and they're going to die. Just never been a problem. So, all right. With that, I'm going to end this stream and yeah, maybe we'll go outside and spend a little bit of time with the dogs. So, I'll see y'all in, I don't know, 5-10 minutes maybe. Bye.